या ऑल राइट, बीच में हमारा जो ब्रॉडकास्ट है वो बंद हो गया था, बट ठीक है, अभी ओपन करके देखते हैं। ये कौन सा खुला हुआ है VS कोड में? यस। तो आई वांट टू ओपन दिस फाइल। आ से ओपन इन एक्सप्लोरर टाइप का ऑप्शन नहीं होता क्या इसमें? लेट मी कॉपी पाथ एंड पेस्ट इट हेयर। या सो वी गॉट दिस बेसिक HTML। अब HTML में मैं एक इनपुट फील्ड बनाना चाहता हूँ। तो लेट्स सी वो कैसे बनता है। ओके, यहाँ पे लाइक वी कैन ऐड समथिंग और उसको हम सबमिट कर सकते हैं। ओके, तो ये HTML में इनपुट नाम का टैग ही है एक। बट मेरे को फॉर्म बनाना ही नहीं है ना, मेरे को। यहाँ पे इन्होंने भी फॉर्म ही बना रखा है। ठीक है, एक बार फॉर्म बना के देखते हैं। तो बॉडी में एक फॉर्म का टैग डाल देते हैं। इसी को कॉपी कर लेते हैं। ठीक है, कितना भी बड़ा टेक्स्ट आ सकता है ना इधर। तो हम ही ऐसा करते हैं, यहाँ पे बाकी सब हटा देते हैं। ये फूटर वगैरह सब हटा देते हैं। चलो कोई नहीं, ये सेक्शन रखते हैं। ठीक है, यहाँ से लेबल हटा दिए और ये फर्स्ट नेम की जगह फर्स्ट नेम की जगह क्या लिखें? एंटर टेक्स्ट इनपुट, है ना? एंड इसका फॉर तो फिर चेंज कर देते हैं, टेक्स्ट इनपुट कर देते हैं इसको, टेक्स्ट इनपुट। इनपुट टाइप टेक्स्ट है, आईडी आईडी भी टी इनपुट लिख देते हैं इसको। इनपुट, वहां पे भी टी इनपुट कर देते हैं। हम्म। हाँ, सो ये um, ठीक है, एक बार के लिए ठीक है। अभी हम ये देखना है कि मैं यहाँ पर कोई टेक्स्ट इनपुट करता हूँ एंड किसी भी बटन को प्रेस करता हूँ तो वो टेक्स्ट कैसे मेरे को मिले। अच्छा, लेट्स से मैं यहाँ पे सबमिट कर देता हूँ। इस पे वीडियो देखते हैं। Yes.
Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video, I want to be able to write a little baby script so that I can get the value, the input from a text box. So, previous video, just really quickly made a text box, which is just using a label and, of course, the good old-fashioned, where's my editor? There it is, input type text. It does have an ID. I played around with placeholder just to see how that worked, and of course, we got the max length attribute in there. But what I want students in Intro to JavaScript to be able to do is obviously easily make a text box, input control, but also be able to get the value from the user and then do something with it. And what we're going to do is going to be pretty simple. We're going to get the value of this text box that the user provides, and we're just going to display it in a paragraph off to the side. In anticipation of that, we do need to be able to invoke our function, call a function, trigger the function, and we're going to do that with a button click. So after my text box here, I'm going to do input type equals, let's do button. That seems pretty good. And I'm going to put a value that just says click me. That's all it takes, and that's going to give me a button right on there. Now this button has already been styled a couple videos back. Otherwise, I'm just styling anything that's an input type button so that it has those colors and that hover effect and stuff like that. You'll notice the labeling for the button is created with the value attribute, and in JavaScript that would be the value property for this particular element. Because because I want this button to trigger or invoke a function, let me go and give it an ID. I'm just going to call it button1, just to be kind of generic. And remember, the order of the attributes in an element doesn't matter, so as long as they're all in that tag. Okay, so that's going to be my button, but I also need a place for my paragraph to go. I'm going to do paragraph class equals output, and then ID equals output 1. And there's my paragraph, and again, I've already styled it so that my paragraph box is going to show up off to the right. That's just CSS stuff there. So now, when somebody types something inside the text box and hits the button, I want that text to show up over there in the paragraph. So that's going to be pretty easy. To make things neat and organized and simple, I'm going to put my scripts right down here in the lower portion of the body of the page. And I will start off by declaring a few variables. Let's see, my first variable, I'm going to use the const keyword. My first variable is going to be for, maybe just, I'll go in order here, the text box itself. So I'm just going to put in text1 is going to be my variable for text box 1 in case we do more. And that's going to be equal to document.get element by ID. And then my ID for that is what? TB user. Oops, I need to put some, I'll use single quotes for that. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do there. I'm also going to do a constant variable for my button, and I'll call that n1, again, document.get element by ID. And then my button ID is btn1. So on my document object, I'm looking for an element that has that ID, and I'm just finding it by its ID. Pretty common, efficient way to go. And let's see, let's do another one here for my output. Constant, I'll say out1, document.get element by ID, and this is output 1. Cool, so I've got those constants in there. Now I'm actually going to create a function. The name of my function is simply going to be fun1. I'm going to do an empty set of parentheses, because this function is not going to have any parameters. No need to do that. We can try that out later on where we can pass arguments to a function. But yeah, so function 1, and it's not going to do a lot of exciting stuff, by the way. It's going to simply go to my output paragraph, which is out1. That's my output paragraph, dot inner HTML. So my object is my paragraph, and inner HTML is a property of that paragraph. Inner HTML means it's going to look at the contents in between the opening and closing tags, in this case, the paragraph tag. And I want that inner HTML to be equal to my text box 1.value. So value is a property of my text box object. And there's a few other values too, but that's one that we could use quite a bit in order to get that value. By the way, if I actually had a value attribute show up in my text box, which is pretty rare, but if I put a value attribute in there, I'd have some text display in that text box. That's different from the placeholder, by the way. Placeholder is temporary and disappears once the user starts to enter a value. But I don't want to use a value